Well, thank you so much for joining today. My friend Ben Lucas is a photographer. He also has a photography podcast, and I thought it would be fun today. From personal experience, Dorothy and I did a session a couple weeks ago, and I never get my photo taken ever. And it's so jarring, even for me as someone that takes video and weddings and everything else, to be on the other side. And I kind of wanted to really just do a podcast with Ben. And I was trying to figure out, okay, Ben's a photographer. Ben takes lots of different types of photos, from weddings to, headshots and all sorts of like cosplay and kind of everything in between, boudoir. And I thought, well, let's get Ben on. If I'm somebody that's going to get, my headshot taken, or we're getting married, or whatever, what are some things that, to expect to kind of get different things, different types of photos taken? What are you looking for in terms of kind of the different things? And we'll kind of see where the conversation goes. So Ben, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Awesome. Hi, I'm Ben Lucas. My website and all my social media handles is Nom Creative, as in Nom Nom. I am a photographer in the Seattle area, and coming up in January, I will have been doing this 10 years, which is crazy to me.
And Alan Chitlick will be excited because Alan helps me kind of produce some of these shows behind the scenes. And Alan will be excited that you came on the podcast today, because Alan did the DJ for my wedding and also did the DJ.
Yeah, he was DJ for my wedding as well. He's great.
So I just run me down the line. Just first off, for anybody listening, I think the the title of this episode is going to be how to have excellent photos taken of you. Because I do think when I look at your work as someone that sees a lot of different stuff, I would qualify that as like excellent photos. I think you do a really good job,
Thank
right?
you.
I think you have just an attention to detail that even like I'm always running around even as like a chicken, whatever, even when we do weddings together, I think you have just a really nice. I remember we had Melody and James, and we were doing portraits.
Oh yeah, that one was great.
And we had done, we were going out in Ballard, and we were trying to get some portraits and everything. And I remember that we, were seated them, sitting them on the bench and trying to kind of position everything. And, it took a couple seconds, and we're trying to get everything. And I remember I went home and I showed Dorothy, my wife, and this is a true story. And she goes, wow, I love how that's just put together. Like, I really love that. And I was like, oh, well, that was like absolutely totally Ben, like I'm just kind of filming in the background. So thank you for that. First off, for getting the kudos for my wife for doing good work, but kind of run me down all the different stuff you do just off the bat.
Yeah, so all the different kind of categories come with their own things that I'm looking for and things that kind of help you look good. So I do weddings, family photos, headshots, high school seniors. Of course, I also do boudoir. And if we have time at the end, I also do like advertising for like corporate stuff. And then I also run a photo booth for cosplay.
Awesome. And so, I mean, at one level, we're kind of doing photos, right? Photography is still photography, but what are some of the most unique or challenging things, bouncing from like weddings to family photos and headshots, and what do you look for that differentiates kind of in each of those categories?
Yeah, so when it comes to weddings, a lot of it is, making sure that you look good as a couple and that you look like you love each other. And there's a bunch of different tips that I have for getting like good wedding photos. And I think when you're looking at a wedding photo, it's very different than, let's say, a headshot. Because when you're looking at a headshot, it is very specifically, do I want to hire this person? Whether they are a lawyer or a real estate agent or an actor, does a casting director want to bring in this person for an audition? So it really comes down to different types of photos have different goals. And so if the photo meets that goal, then it's a successful photo.
Yeah, and how hard is it? Because, even like I get called all the time, we have a lot of wedding stuff. People always assume that, do you do corporate? Yes, we do corporate. We always have that, that fun talk. Is that challenging to jump in between? Do you kind of have to put on a different hat depending on which you're walking into, and how does that, change kind of how you approach?
Not really. I think a lot of it is just do do I make people look and feel good in front of the camera? If I can make you feel comfortable in front of the camera, and if you're happy with your photo, regardless of what genre it is, I think for me at least, that all kind of falls in the same realm. When I have to put on a different hat is when I'm shooting for like Mercedes, Ferrari, Leatherman, when I'm doing something that does not have a person in it. Those are the types of things where it's like, okay, I got to think about this a little bit differently. I have to make sure that the metal shines just right. And that's a completely different skill set than working with people.
It is nice to when I kind of go in like the wedding season and everything's so crazy. And then it is almost nice to have like a corporate shoot and actually have that extra few minutes, like you said, to kind of make sure the metal's all whatever, or make sure like it's just different because sometimes we really are just kind of running. You're almost behind the gun all day. You don't have time to like do any of that stuff. And then, oh wow, I actually have 10 minutes to really like kind of set this up. Do you enjoy that? Do you feel that same thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So there are definitely some high pressure, like product shoots that I do that would be on par with a wedding. Because on a wedding day, it is just go, 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 and you don't have time to stop except for maybe 5 minutes when people are eating, or like the minute before the ceremony when it's calm before the storm type thing. But no, when I'm doing like products type stuff, like I did a shoot for Nintendo where it was crazy. It was, I literally have to just grab the product, put it on the screen, take a photo, look at the back. Does it look good? Keep moving. I had like 2 minutes per product, versus when I do work for like Leatherman, I have like 4 hours per product where I can really fine tune and take my time and make sure everything is absolutely perfect. But that also comes down to Nintendo is selling a power cable for like $6 versus Leatherman selling the knife for like 300 or whatever. So
So if I'm somebody that's getting married, right, and we're going to hire you or anybody to be our photographer, what are some tips? We're going to kind of go through each of these categories and kind of talk through scenarios. So what are some advice you give to the couples that you work with getting ready for their wedding day? Do you walk through anything kind of day of, techniques, anything like that? I mean, walk me through that.
yeah. So I also made like a magazine that has a lot of the tips that I'm going to be talking about today. You are in it as well. I did a little interview there. But yeah, I just have a couple of quick things that no matter who you hire as your photographer, that you can look good in your photos. The first one is perfecting the princess wave. Elbow, elbow, wrist, wrist. But really, like, it sounds silly, but when most couples, when they hug, or you throw your arms around their neck slash shoulders, that type of thing, if your hand looks like a claw on the shoulder, you could be having a wonderful moment. But then when I take a picture of it, all I see is this big bony hand with the fingers just kind of digging into the person. So, to give it that more wedding feel with like the softer, more romantic vibes, being able to have like the fingers together and that soft hand and kind of just relaxed set and not clawed and digging into skin, those types of things with like more gentle, subtle touch really helps get across the romantic feel and the demure feel and just kind of more softer, subtle vibes. Because when you're going for kind of a soft photo, but you have this really hard, angular thing in it, that just doesn't look good and kind of ruins the moment. So that's one of those kind of amateur mistakes, and hopefully your photographer should be catching these kinds of things and helping coach you through it, because hands are definitely the hardest to do in any photo for sure.
Yeah, because even like if I'm posing people, I'm having you always feel like, okay, the hands, are we doing the pocket
I got
thing?
everything. What do I do with the hands? And then it's like, I don't know.
Because I always, and it never feels like, even if I haven't put it in the pocket and I think, okay, that looks weird, later on, or if I do it, I'm always second guessing, even like what I'm having people do. So what do you tell, do you give them something to do with, like does the bride hold flowers? I mean, do you give people stuff to do with their hands and everything? I mean, how do you keep people like occupied, like all the extremities and everything? Do you have any advice for that?
Yeah, so a lot of what I do as a photographer is, rather than saying, okay, stand there, move your foot here, bend your elbow just a little bit, that's kind of the more nitpicky stuff that I will go in and fix once you're already in a position. But if I start there, it makes you feel very stiff and posed and awkward. And during a wedding photo, you looking comfortable is more important than you having that perfect pose. Because let's say I put you in a pose, but you have like an arm injury and your elbow just doesn't bend that far. Well, it looks great, but your face looks like it's in pain. It's not a good photo. So generally what I do is I try and give you a situation. So for example of, hey, you two are walking in the park, go ahead, turn towards me, hold inside hands, look at each other, just kind of like have a chat and walk towards me. So with that kind of thing, I gave them some direction on where to go, as in hold that inside hand. But then the other hand's just free swinging and they're walking towards me. And if, she has a bouquet in the other hand, boom, your hand's problem solved. The other thing that I'll have them do is go ahead and, hug, throw your arms around each other. And then I'll try and get a photo of like the ring on her hand while she has her arms around his shoulders. And so for that shot, I just say, go ahead and hug, go ahead and throw your hands up there, get nice and close. And I just kind of see where the hands naturally fall. And because most people have a hand position, and then from there, I can just kind of, nudge the fingers over and fine tune, but giving them something to do when you're not thinking about what do I do with my hands, you already know what to do with your hands subconsciously. It just happens.
Yeah, that where you were talking about, getting them in situations and then fine tuning, because we usually kind of always defer to however the photographer wants to pose people, and yeah, sometimes you work with certain people, and I can't even. It's not even like I have anybody off the top of my head, but like they're like, okay, 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, you're moving on this, and you'll be like, dude, at some point you just kind of got to let him be whatever. Because if
It's true.
Because I'm like, I'm uncomfortable and I'm kind of watching this and I can't even imagine like, okay, now I got to turn. Okay, now I got to do this. Like it's a hard balance, right? For people because you want them to look good. You want them to look flattering, but you also don't want to make them feel self-conscious. And then also you can't take 18 hours per photo kind of trying to,
Of course. Yeah, when you're in a fast-paced situation like a wedding, I've got my 90% rule. Am I 90% happy with this photo? Great, we're going to cut it and move on to something else. Because the other thing is you can spend a lot of time working on the photo, but if the couple doesn't even like that photo, all that time was wasted. So especially for a wedding, having variety, I think is more important than getting that last 10%, which is going to take all the time. But when I'm doing something a little slower, like fashion editorials or boudoir, that's that open communication of like, hey, it's going to feel nitpicky. It's going to feel repetitive, but we're not looking for 800 photos today. We need that one photo that you're going to absolutely love.
That is interesting when you talk about, yeah, if the couple doesn't like it. I remember on our wedding day that we had, we got married at Salty's, and there was like they kind of have like this weird, it's like a ship hole kind of porthole thing. It's really weird, like right next to it. And we were doing photos in there, and Dorothy looks at me and she's like, I hate like all of these in here. Like we're not going to do anything with it. I'm like, we just kind of got to do it because I'm like, we don't want to like say anything and like kind of break the vibe or like, we're just kind of going through it. But like you said, if we had spent an hour in there fine tuning everything, we would have screamed. It's like, no, let's get them. Okay, you want to do that? Let's get them going. And then, we moved on. But I remember Dorothy's like, and then we got the photos back and she goes, yeah, I hate all of these. I'm like, well, okay, it's fine. That was one like 5 minutes of the hour. Like it's okay, but they thought they were going to get something and, but yeah, like you said, you don't want to put all your eggs in that one basket if it's not something.
Of course. And as a photographer, I will absolutely say not all my ideas are good ones. So you were talking about Melody and James earlier. Right before we did the bench one that you talked about, we went into an alley and I posed them right next to a dumpster. I'm like, trust me, you guys, you're going to love it. And they're like, are you sure? No, that one actually did turn out great, but there were a couple of poses where like, I'll shoot it. I'm 90% happy with it, but I realized to myself the amount of effort that it would take to make this to look good is not worth it. So there was this one like pagoda gazebo type thing in the middle of a market, except they were actually having a farmer's market. So it was covered with like electrical cables and wires. And even though that was on the shot list previous to the day, I showed up, took one photo with it and went, you know what, guys, this is good enough. If you like it, I'll Photoshop the heck out of it for you, but you're probably not going to pick this one over everything else we've already done today.
Yeah, because I'm like, I bet I can't do anything with this. Like, there's wire. I was like, I can't Photoshop this like you can.
I can Photoshop with video significantly harder.
Yeah. So if we're transitioning, if we're engaged, we're getting engagement photos. Do a lot of the same rules apply? I mean, at least I think the difference would be engagement shoots are probably a little less restrictive, right? I mean, you have a little bit more
Yeah, with an
freedom.
engagement shoot, we definitely can play a little more. On a wedding day, if you run late, you have all of your guests and vendors and, venue that has a hard stop time. All of that's running late. As a photographer on an engagement shoot, however, if we run 10 or 15 minutes late, as long as they didn't have anything else that they were going to that day, and if I am like traveling to like a waterfall or something rather than just doing it at a local park, I won't schedule anything that day either. So if we take a few extra minutes to kind of just refine that pose of like, this is going to go on the cover of your guest book, I think you're really going to like it, then yeah, we can take that extra time. But on the wedding day, it's just the time pressure. You got to know when it's good enough and keep going.
Do you? I look at it. We obviously with video don't do a lot of. That's a little bit more of the photographer thing with the engagement shoots, and I know a lot of photographers like it because you kind of get to know the couple, right? Get to kind of know what kinds of shots they like, what they don't like,
Absolutely.
kind of their interaction, right? Are they? Some couples are in love and they're just a little stiffer than others, and that's nothing against like the love that they have or the relationship that they have. Just some people are physically right. What are some things you look for or advice for that? Like, so if I'm with my partner, we're going to get engagement photos, we don't get a lot of photos taken. What are some things maybe for the engagement side of things where maybe you don't know any of that context already?
Yeah. So, previous to recording, I came up with a whole list of just like random tips that'll work for both wedding and engagement shoot. But I think to answer your specific question, it really comes down to each couple is different. So if you're looking on Pinterest and you're like, oh, I love that, and it's moody and dramatic and whatever, but you two are just a very happy, upbeat, boisterous, silly type of couple, lean into it. So you don't have to get the Pinterest perfect photo. You have to get the photo that shows the two of you together. So for me and my wife, our engagement shoot, we dressed up. She did like the victory curls for pinup style, and we went and did a pinup shoot at Johnny Rockets and did the whole drinking out of the same milkshake with two different straws, and it was super cute. And we got a ton of photos from that we absolutely loved. But I think it really is kind of like coming up with something that is you. Because if you enjoy it and like it and are excited about it and can lean into that, then it doesn't have to be your normal one. I'm working with a couple that's going to be Halloween 21. And that couple, their engagement shoot, they want to do that goth, like graveyard, dark, spooky. Their wedding theme is Until Death. And cool, that's them. We're going to lean into that, and we're going to have fun with it, and we're going to make it their photo.
I think that we have that wedding together. I think that'll be a good one. I think
Yeah,
it's a
that's going to
lot.
be so much fun. They've already talked to me about their plans for the album. And so I showed them all their albums, and they're like, we would like you to design the album, but do it on loose leaf pages so I can turn it into the Necronomicon from Beetlejuice. I'm like, cool, you do you. That sounds awesome.
Do you, if we're, and this is actually probably not even really on, it is on topic, but it's kind of outside the realm. I see a lot of couples posts looking for engagement shoots, right? Or like, locations or ideas and stuff. Is that something like you said, lean into what you want? What advice do you have for couples when they're trying to figure out? Because most of the time when they post online, everyone always writes, ask your photographer, but they're trying to figure out
Yeah.
like ideas. So what do you tell people? Like find a place that's meaningful for you. I mean, I don't want to take the words out of your mouth. What do you tell people if they're
I
looking
mean,
for?
yeah, I basically have a 3-step thing for finding locations for engagement shoots. Step number 1 is, do you already have somewhere in mind? If you already have somewhere in mind of like, hey, this is where I proposed, this is where we first met, this was where I first said I love you, this is something that is super meaningful to us, and this is where we want our shoot, that's where you should do your shoot. That's not something that your photographer knows or can tell you. So the first thing is, you don't ask your photographer like, do you know all these locations? If you already know this is where we want to go. If that's where you want to go there, do it. It'll be great. So if you don't have a place like that, the next thing that I say look for is actually look at the decor in your home. So when you're doing the engagement shoot, you're probably like when you take wedding photos, that's you dressed up in wedding stuff and that ages. But when you're doing an engagement shoot, you can really shoot something that's more classic or timeless and can grow with you as you grow together as a couple or together as a family. So I say that when you're going to do like a huge, like, picture above the fireplace that's going to be there for years and years, you're probably going to do that from your engagement shoot. So think about what's the type of style and decor that you have in your home and what kind of artwork would you like up there? Are you the type of person who would love a cityscape because you actually have a penthouse downtown Seattle? Or are you more outdoorsy and you'd love to do like a waterfall? So kind of let your decor and your taste and style for wherever that art is going to go help dictate the location. If you don't have any meaningful places and your decor style is blank palette and you still don't know, ask your photographer and basically decide for yourself, do you want indoor, outdoor? Do you want busy or secluded? Do you want bright colors or more muted? And then let your photographer just find and pick something for you. Those kind of things, because like if you go into a forest, there are some forests where it's just green. And that's going to be super muted because there's not a lot of variation in color tone. Or we can decide we're going to shoot it in autumn and we're going to have a whole foliage forest of different colors. And that'll get you the more kind of bright, vibrant look. So there's lots of different ways you can go about it. But at least kind of knowing your taste and style for how you want the end photo to look, then your photographer can pick a location. You can say, yeah, that works.
Yeah, so that's the tough thing. I have to think the clothing, because like you said, your wedding day, okay, you got your tux on, your dress, or what, whatever you're gonna do. But yeah, trying to pick like that outfit or whatever that you're gonna have on the wall for 10 years is like that. That to me is like stressful because I mean, if you look at me, right, I'm not the keen stylistic kind of guy, but it is too. I think trying to like find the outfits that match kind of where you're. I'm editing the video right now, and it's a really woodsy wedding video, and like her dress is really doesn't fit. Like it really doesn't fit. It's a beautiful dress, right? And you're like, I don't really know. I mean, it's just tough, right? And that's so it's trying to kind of marry those two things together, right? Do you find trying to pick outfits for people, and I mean, do you help with that? I don't even know.
Kind of. My general policy personally on outfits is bring a few different options, and the day of, I'll tell you what I like best. So I say don't match because matchy match is weird, but coordinate so that you look like you belong together when the photo gets taken. And the other thing too is just bring a couple different things because if we show up and the pink is just radiating too bright in the sun, then don't wear the pink shirt. Maybe go with like the light blue type thing. So part of it could just be like, hey, I really like these three. I can't decide. And your photographer may say, you know what? I think this one's going to look really good on you. Or you could put it on and the one that you thought would be good, maybe it's a little too baggy. And you're like, you know what? We're actually going to go with the other ones today. So just pick a few of your favorite things that you really like and love and feel comfortable in, and then just decide day of.
Because I just had a like an online like a call or whatever. We're trying to do some corporate stuff next week, and they were even asking me like, "What do we wear?" And I'm like, I don't wear anything crazy. Like it's just I was like, just like some pastels.
Yeah,
Some like
no really tight pinstripes that will radiate on camera really hard unless you shoot on Hasselblad. I did shoot in a studio where we shot on Hasselblad, and Hasselblad specifically. So it's called moire for those of you listening. When those stripes, basically aim your cell phone at your computer screen and watch all the stripes just go nuts. That's moire. So if you wear one of those really small, tight patterns that makes the camera go crazy, that's a bad thing. Try and avoid that. But otherwise, just whatever makes you feel good.
So if we're kind of segueing now to more of like the family shoots, right? So if we're and this could be, I've seen pre-wedding stuff, you got kids, you got animals, you got whatever, or post-wedding, right? I mean, I think one of the coolest things about photographers is you can kind of grow with the couples, right? If they want to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
Which, I always lament that's like, you get me for one day and then I'll like, maybe your friend or maybe your sisters get married. What rules or whatever apply differently to family shoots and photos and sessions than maybe weddings or engagement? Any difference?
A little bit. So with family photos, I mean, if it's just a family of two, like same kind of rules apply because it's just a couple. So the one differentiation that I'm going to throw in here is when you say family photos, I'm going to assume that you have kids or pets or something that you're throwing into the mix. So it's not just the two of you. So when you are, have multiple people and you're that family unit, number one, just kind of make sure you like each other. So whether it is kind of like a soft, loving moment or like a fun, active, boisterous moment, just being able to capture those moments is great. So especially with kids, sometimes a kid will show up and they'll be like, "I hate this. Why do I have to wear slacks? These are awful." I actually just did a wedding where the ring bearer was saying, "I hate tuxes. Why does anyone wear a tux?" I'm like, "Kid, you look really good. The ladies are gonna love it." No, but no. Sometimes the kid shows up and they're just not having it. But you picked like, "Hey, we want to go shoot at the park." Well, take 5 minutes and let them run around and like have some fun. And like once they get the smile on their face, come on back. Let's take some more photos. And now like, oh, photo shoots are fun. We can do that now. So I've also done some family shoots where like the mom and dad are in the background, and I just tell the kids like, run at me, just smile, laugh, run at me, and it's just kind of like a fun moment of chaos. But it's like, oh, that's our family. That's what it looks like on a day-to-day basis. That's fun. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of just do it. But I think just kind of interacting with the kids and making sure that they kind of look happy and fun and that y'all like each other. It doesn't have to be the let's all stand in our perfect spot, presidential portrait type thing and stare into the camera. Family photos, mom and dad can be kissing and the kids can be, playing, and like that is a good family photo. So earlier when I was talking about the difference between all these genres is actually the end result. Does it fit the end result? Well, the end result with a family photo is, do you like it? That's it. That's all we're looking for. So whether you're looking into the camera or looking at each other, if you like it, awesome. That's it.
Is it hard? And so in context, or for context, my younger brother hates wearing jeans. Has never worn jeans. Is 27 years old now. Has never worn jeans. Maybe 2 days in his life. Right. So every time we would go do like family photos, I have these like vivid memories. Christmas photos or like I don't know, like graduation stuff or whatever. Like just misery trying to get him to like wear stuff or look a certain way. I mean, what do you tell the parents if they have? Is it just like make them look presentable? It's okay if it's not in all this like, candy cane
Yeah.
colored. I mean, what do you do?
Well, one thing that I would say is like, if your brother doesn't like jeans, wear slacks, dress it up, be classy. Sounds good. No, but for kids who really don't want to wear the thing, my brother and his wife, they have 3 kids, and they always get the kids matching outfits for their family photos. So it's mom and dad, and then these 3 matching dresses, and it's adorable. But they do have several photos where kid number 1 looks happy, kid number 2 looks happy, kid number 3 screaming. The other thing I would say there is, you know what? You only need a split second of not screaming to be happy with it. So kind of like with like baby shoots of, yeah, babies can have this curled up face and yeah, but all you need is that split second where they like take a breath and it's like, oh, they're not screaming anymore. You take that photo and you're done. So yeah, one of the things is while you with video, you have to get this whole span of time that they have to look good for, 15, 20 seconds. I need a 200th of a second of them looking good. So really what it comes down to is, do your best. You can bribe your kids with candy, try and make it so it's a good fun experience. Be excited that, oh, we get to do photos, not you have to do photos. That kind of tone definitely really helps. But yeah, I think the other thing too is just like when you're there on set, if you've got a little kid in the family photo that's just not having it, take 5, let them reset. It's okay. You can ask the kid what they like, let them talk about Minecraft or Legos or whatever for a couple of minutes. And then they get all excited and animated and be like, great, hold that. And then you can take more photos. So Yeah, I think a lot of it just comes down to for family photos, make sure like the kids, or if you have pets, if the pet's not having it, let them run around for a little bit, rub their belly. It's all good. Grass stains can be photoshopped. So
Yeah, getting the pets is hard. Getting the pets looking. Do you find where you were just talking about you only need like that split second? Do you find sometimes like family photos, let's say the kids aren't behaving or people aren't whatever, but you're like, no, I got exactly what I need, but they feel like, oh, just because you need
yeah,
so much less, right, than they do.
if they don't feel confident that I got it, I'll just show them the back of the camera. The other thing too is if you have a family of, let's say, like 10 or 15 and one kid's not having it, but in another photo he is, face swap in Photoshop. Photoshop is magic. So, yeah, all you really need for family photos is look like you love each other, look like you like each other. That's helpful. Whether you're doing loud, boisterous, fun photos or kind of more soft, tender. Oh, that's such a sweet family photo. As long as you look like you're having fun and like each other, it's going to be a good photo. Weddings, there's that whole different thing of I need all these photos for the album. Family photos, you need what? If you're doing a Christmas card, one for the front, one for the back.
Does locations and things same rules apply as like engagement photos? Look at the decor of your house, or look at. I mean, if you're trying to do
I
Christmas
think
cards.
so. Yeah, for family photos, location wise, I generally stick to things that are either meaningful or completely nondescript. So if I have a park with enough just kind of open space and I can use a long lens, then I can just make the background just look like this blurry blue and green, nice kind of thing. And for me, if you look at a photo and say, "Oh, I know where that is," then it's probably not a good photo because the subject is not the location. The subject is the family. But if you look at a photo and say, "Oh, that's a really nice family photo. Where was that?" "Oh, this was taken at Oxbow Park." You're like, "Oh, that's where the hat and boots are." Okay, I know that. If like the location is secondary to having a good photo, then it's good. So any park with lots of open room, anything with like flat green hedges that you can stand in front of, anything with just kind of open space, whether that's water and sky or like plain brick walls. I think plain nondescript backgrounds work best so that you can focus on the subject, which is you and your family, versus, oh yeah, we went to this one specific place and like went on a boat or something. If boating's really important to you, awesome, go on a boat. But otherwise, I think just plain simple.
Is it worth, obviously if you're putting together like an album or like an engagement album, right? You're doing all that stuff, but is it worth, I see a lot of friends that get a lot of like, professional or like semi-professional like photos for, baby announcements or Christmas or all this stuff. And then they'll like crop it all wonky donk to like put, to put on Shutterstock or to put on, whatever strip. I mean,
Shutterfly, yeah, that
but I
do it
mean,
yourself album.
is it worth at least chatting with your photographer? Like, what are the like? How should I crop this if we need to crop it? I mean, because obviously, when you're framing it, yeah, you're framing it a certain way, and then you're kind of like hoping that they right preserve that, right? I mean, walk me through just your thoughts about that.
Yeah. So when I'm talking to the photographers out there, I have different advice than when I'm talking to the couples out there. So when I'm talking to the photographers, the one thing to understand is once you give them their photos, they're out of your hands. You can't police and control it as much as you would like to. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. And there are some couples that are gonna come to you and say, you know what? We want it to look the absolute best it can be. We want you to do this and print it for us and do all that. And awesome, here you go. And then there are other couples that are going to take it to Costco or Shutterfly and crop it all wonky. And oh, the aspect ratio wasn't quite right. They don't even know that word. They just say it wasn't lining up in the hole, so I squished it. And now everyone looks a little squinched. And you know what? As long as they like it, they're going to do what they're going to do. But when I'm talking to the couples, please don't do that. Please listen to your photographer. No, but seriously, if you want to look good, there are some things that I will do if you order a print through me that I won't do if I'm just handing you like 400 photos on a disc. Of like, hey, does your teenager have a giant zit? I will take that out in the ones that you order, but I don't have time to take that out of 400 photos. So it's a little bit of that, of just kind of like talk with your photographer. If you do, there are definitely people that are like, hey, I'm designing the Christmas card myself because I'm also putting all my like home family photos on it, and all I need is this. You can tell your photographer too of, hey, actually the cards we're sending out this year are square. So can you make sure to leave enough room on the edges, no matter which way you shoot it, so that we can crop it to a square? So if you're doing it yourself, just kind of that open communication so that your photographer can actually get the thing that you want.
Yeah, I'm just always so used to because my whole world is landscape, and so I
It's
do
true.
when I shooting the video, and so yeah, when I get some photos, sometimes like I need one that's this way because everything else on my website is all it's all the other way. So I want to transition to boudoir. I know we'll jump around here. You do a lot of that too. Talk about, and obviously there just hasn't been as much of it right now just because of everything going on. But like, what are some of the pre-wedding stuff? What are some of the different reasons you see people wanting to do boudoir, and then how do you kind of approach that?
Yeah, so I think the one that most people think of is like, oh, I'm getting married. I want to do a gift for my husband type thing. That's actually the reason that I have seen the least. I think it's the one that most people think of, but there are so many other reasons why you would actually do boudoir. One is just kind of like self empowerment. So I've seen people of like, hey, I lost 80 pounds. I feel amazing in my own body. I want to celebrate that and show that off. Awesome. Boudoir session is going to be great for that. There are other people that are like, you know what? I just got out of, a 6-year relationship. I want like the self-esteem boost and I want to feel wonderful and beautiful. And, having a professional makeup artist and hairstylist and photographer make you look absolutely amazing is a huge confidence booster. So there's that too. And then there are people that just, want to, get photos of themselves and celebrate it. And so for any of these reasons, if that's why you want to do boudoir, great. You should absolutely do that.
So I would have to think that a lot of people that are wanting to do boudoir might be nervous or just because like you said, it's not only is it challenging for some people just to have photos taken of themselves, myself included, right? But then here you are, can be a little more vulnerable, right? You feel a little more exposed. I mean, how do you walk people through being comfortable with, with you doing it or any photographer? And what advice do you give for people for doing the boudoir stuff?
Yeah. So when I've worked with women doing boudoir, I'd love to do a doudoir. Haven't yet, but if you're listening, hit me up. Sure. But when I'm working with women doing boudoir, there are definitely all different comfortable levels. There are some that like, hey, they're actually a bartender or dancer or, something who they feel super outgoing and extroverted and comfortable in themselves and their own body, and doing boudoir for them is no big deal. Cool. And then there are other people of, yeah, I'm actually working HR. Doing boudoir for me feels super uncomfortable. I've never done that. And so those are the ones where the very first thing is you have to work with a photographer that you completely trust. So you're absolutely right. This is a very vulnerable experience, and you are trusting that photographer not only to not be a creep, but you are trusting that photographer to make you look amazing. Nothing can be more disheartening than doing a boudoir session, putting yourself in that position, paying all of this money, and then getting back all your photos and hating them. So part of that is definitely just like doing your research, making sure that you're choosing the right person to work with and that you actually do trust them. I always do a pre-planning session with like an engagement photo session. Sometimes the planning is just a phone call. With a boudoir session, always have to have face-to-face or video chat to make sure that they understand what's going to happen, the expectations on both sides. And that we can actually work through and plan out that session. I think one of the huge keys to feeling more comfortable is planning. If you just show up to your session, you're like, I'm ready. What do I do? What was I supposed to bring? Then yeah, you're already off to a bad start. But when I work with my couples or women or anyone who wants to do a boudoir session, I say, okay, so these are the type of outfits that I'd like you to bring. One of this, one of this, one of this, and then anything else that you think looks amazing. Take this as an excuse to go on a little bit of a shopping spree and get the things that you would like for your session. And then also, walk me through your closet. What are the types of things that you like and feel comfortable in? And we just kind of have those conversations. So there are some women where they say, I want it all to be implied, which means that there is actually nothing showing, including nipples. And then there are other women who say, like, yeah, I don't care. That's fine. I'm the only one seeing it. I want to look great. So just kind of having that conversation with your photographer and making sure that everyone is on the same page expectation wise can really help alleviate that anxiety.
What and this is a totally foreign, like, we don't do like video. I mean, maybe there's a lot of videographers that do, but video boudoir shoots, whatever. I have no even idea. What do you look for? Are you looking for little moments? I mean, what does that session look like? I have no idea. I have no context in the world to even ask an intelligent question.
Yeah, so I generally just tell them, take the whole day off. We're gonna, take it slow, pamper yourself. It's gonna be a good session. I don't want you to have part of a time block and be rushing off to something, or in the back of your head thinking, "What time is it? I hope he finishes," so that we can get going to my meeting or whatever it is. So the very first thing is I book a professional hair and makeup artist for you, unless you specifically request not. That's already included, because I found that a lot of people, they either don't want to do their own makeup or they want that feeling and experience of being pampered, of having someone else doing it for them. So you have professional hair and makeup, and then I like to show up kind of when they're doing their thing. We can have coffee, we can chat, just get comfortable being in the room. And then, so the session for me, it lasts about 3 hours or so. And that is a long time versus a portrait session with a couple would maybe be 1 hour. But the difference is, like I mentioned before, it's a much slower shoot. We're really going to walk things through. And what I'll do is when I take a photo and I like 90% of it, I will show them, hey, this is the thing that I like, but can you arch your back just a little bit more? Because then we can get this nice curve in this spot. And then, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. And then the next photo I take, they're like, that one, I absolutely love that one. Because when it comes to like a couple's photo, if you're like, I kind of like that one, we look kind of cute, that's generally good enough for most couples. But when you're doing a boudoir photo, because of just the nature of the shoot, if you only half like it, it's not a good photo. You have to absolutely love those. So we're going to take a little more time to kind of refine those. And then, of course, you have, 4, 6, however many different outfits. And I'm going to try and make sure that we give ample time to each one of those things that you brought.
Yeah, like you said, it's so much about them. Like you said, where if like Dorothy and I are walking down the beach, and people are looking at her and me and maybe Rosie and the landscape, and you're kind of looking at everything. With the boudoir, it's like that's all it is.
This
So
one's about you. Yeah. Do you look good?
how did you techniques and things? How did you learn that? Just through trial and error, or was that something? How did you kind of develop helping people kind of guide through that process?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of research and talking to other photographers and practicing with models who already felt comfortable doing boudoir so that I could get up to their comfort level before I worked on quote unquote real people. Or people who felt less comfortable in their own skin. So how it got started was, it wasn't just one, but it was multiple requests from brides saying, I love your work. I want to do boudoir. I want you to do my boudoir. And it was, well, I don't really do that, but I got enough of these requests. I need to learn how to do that. So if you're a photographer and you're just getting started, hire models and get a model who already feels comfortable and already knows posing and can help elevate that to where you need to go, and then start there. Feel comfortable being in the room, feel comfortable posing and directing, feel comfortable finding your style and finding the photos that you like before you practice on a person who getting a bad photo could really shatter their confidence. If you get a bad photo of a model, they just know you're a bad photographer and they're fine.
Do you I mean, I know it's probably not for everybody. Do you advise people if they're interested in that, talk to a photographer? Obviously, if you're working with a wedding photographer already, see if that's something maybe that they do or they have advice about. I mean, I know that the photographers I've worked with that have done the boudoir, and the engagement session, day of, it just there's a lot of cohesion there, just in terms of kind of everybody's on the same page. But I mean, if I'm somebody that's just curious about it, like what do you even do? If I'm like not the photographer, if I'm a couple or a client.
Yeah. So if you're a client and you're interested in boudoir, the first thing would be ask. So there are some wedding photographers that say, yes, I do boudoir. Okay, well, why don't I see it on your site? And maybe they have a reason, or maybe they don't. And if they don't have anything they can show you, maybe they're not the right fit for you. They might be great for your wedding, but maybe not for boudoir. I know there are photographers that specialize only in boudoir because they said, you know what, wedding days are too long. I'm too old for that. I don't want to do it anymore. I just do boudoir, and they're really good at it. So there are those kind of photographers too. But the other thing too is you're absolutely right. Having that cohesion of I did your portrait session back then, I did your boudoir session now, I did your engagement session, your wedding session, your baby's first session, your anniversaries. There is something to just that creating that connection. I love your work. And just trusting that you've done a good job 6 times already. I know the next one's going to be great too.
So kind of an odd transition to headshots, but I do want to talk about that too, just because I know that that's something you do. I had to film an event this year that was like they were given 10,000 headshots. They were doing for all people like if you had lost jobs because of like COVID and everything.
Oh yeah.
And so it was
I
just
know the one you're talking about.
yeah, it was interesting just to because I don't do a lot of headshots. I don't like have it. I've never really done either side of that. But it's interesting, and I think it's where it's similar to boudoir, where it's obviously just focused on the person, but to me that it's tough because like that is you trying to get a job. What do you how does that relate, and how do you look at headshots?
Yeah. So when I was talking earlier about there is a goal for the photo. For weddings, it's I want this to be a beautiful album or beautiful piece of wall art. For family photos of I want to like this photo enough to go on a Christmas card. For headshots, the goal is I want someone to hire me. So whether you are self-employed and you're looking for actual clients or an actor looking for casting director, there is someone on the other end of that photo judging you and determining whether they want to give you their money. So the key to headshots is confidence and approachability. So confidence comes from the eyes and approachability comes from the mouth. And really, it is just kind of like practicing those two things. And if you can get that down, then you can look and feel like a celebrity. So if you have the, scared up arched eyebrows in your photo, then people are like, oh, I don't know what it is about this photo, but I don't think they're good at their job. But then if you have, the great stern look, but you're frowning, they're gonna be like, oh, I bet that lawyer is really great, but he might be kind of mean. I don't know if I actually want to talk to him. So if you have both confidence and approachability, that makes an excellent headshot. And I would say headshots 9 times out of 10, look down the barrel of the camera. Make sure that you are connecting with the viewer on the other side of that who is judging you, because 9 times out of 10, that is going to help rather than hinder. The 10th time is if you're actually like an author for a blog or something and you want your headshot to reference your bio, then your headshot should actually be looking off to the side wherever the text is on the website. Because people will look at you, they look at the face first, then they look at your eyes, and then they see you're not looking at them. And that's weird. Why isn't he looking at me? What is he looking at? Oh, he's looking at this text. I should read that.
It's just so hard. It's really hard with the headshots, and it's because it's all on that one thing. If they're looking weird, I mean, we're visual people. I know, I'll do even like with the podcast on the Get to Know Your Wedding Pro one. I haven't necessarily met everybody, and like they'll send headshots, and you look in your head, you're like, that guy kind of looks like a D, or like I don't know if I mean, you get these preconceived. I just think it has to be so challenging as a photographer to give somebody something that's like conveys a message, but then it's also like really vanilla, like not offensive at the same time.
Yeah. So I have a perfect story for this. My brother is a pediatric dentist, so he works with kids, and he owns his own dental practice. And he needed a head, and he actually wrote a book too. And his editor told him, "Your headshot sucks. Get a new headshot." Because two things were wrong with it. It was a photoshopped background of like a fake Hawaii tropical something, and the second thing wrong with it is he had this real cheeseball smile on his face that looked like a grimace. So he came to me. He's like, "Okay, I need a good headshot. Let's do this." And I've seen him smile my entire life, and he has had that "I want to show both rows of teeth" smile his entire life. And I'm like, "You, Roger, you stop that, or I will slap that smile off your face." But it really comes down to, if you have a bad habit like that, try and break down the habit. And when he was thinking about, "Oh, you're about to take a photo, I need to smile," then he was doing this weird contortion in the mouth that was making it look awful. So I just started talking to him like, "Hey, so played any good Xbox games lately?" He said, "No, it's because I wrote a book." But then he started laughing, and boom, there it is. So, like, just kind of like, if the photographer can talk with you and you can just kind of chat about stuff. Obviously, he doesn't want to take the photo while you're talking, because you get that mouth mid open photo. But no, just, if your photographer can make you feel comfortable in front of the camera, then you're gonna get a good photo. I worked with a psychiatrist's office where I was just zooming through the whole office, getting everyone who worked in the building. And there was one, I had about 5 minutes per person, so I could kind of, build that rapport. And some people only took two, some people took a little longer. There was one guy who, he felt like Santa Claus. He was nice and jolly and awesome and felt very generous and giving in the 2 minutes that I spent with him. But then I put the camera up to my face and he looks like he's about to eat your child. I don't know what was happening there. And so it was this give and pull of trying to catch him in that nice, beautiful, genuine moment in between the weird, contrived thing he was doing with his face. So for those of you at home who need a new headshot, practice in the mirror, confidence. Look, use your eyes, make sure that you look like someone who knows what they're doing. And then approachability, make sure you look like a nice person people want to work with. Because, like, if you're an actor getting hired for like a Broadway show, they're stuck with you for the next 6 months to a year. They want to make sure you're not a dick.
Any other kind of, I know you said you had jotted down kind of some general tips. Anything that doesn't fit in any of these, or anything I forgot to ask in terms of kind of general tips?
Yeah, sure. I'll just kind of rattle down a list here. So, if you're doing weddings or couples photos, a couple of things is avoid straight lines. So, when you turn and hug each other, you're just going to be two straight sticks and it's going to look stiff and awkward. So, men, just kind of put your feet shoulder width apart so that you're not, super close together. Women, go ahead and just, bend the knee, put the foot out, bend your elbows. For anyone who studied art, there's contrapposto, which is asymmetrical arrangement of the body. Make sure that your shoulders, if you're shifted to one side, your weight is on one foot more than the other. Your hips aren't aligned, your shoulders aren't aligned. It just adds a little bit of intrigue and interest to those photos. Especially when you're doing a couple shoot, no hand on the belly. That is a maternity shoot. That is not for weddings or family photos, unless you're going for that. Then do the hand on the belly, but otherwise, no, stop it. Hips or waist, not belly.
Yeah.
Something else is, if you can plan the timing of your shoot so you can be backlit. Backlighting is magic, assuming your photographer knows how to handle it. But yeah, if you say, "I want to go down to the park," and the park is, has this waterfront where the sun's beautiful over it. Well, is the sun beautiful over it at sunrise or sunset? Because you don't want to get the opposite one, and then you're going to have really harsh sun in your face, and that's going to be less flattering. The last thing I would say for weddings is, don't try too hard. On your wedding day, you're in love, you look amazing, but if you try and put on model face so that you can and make sure that you look good, your photos probably aren't going to come out as good as if you were just being genuine in the moment. So I think that pretty much covers it for weddings. The only other thing I would say for boudoir, since that's one that we covered, is listen to your photographer, plan ahead, open communication before the shoot, make sure you're both on the same page, open communication during the shoot. If you have some injury that doesn't allow you to do a pose, speak up and say so. If you feel uncomfortable doing a pose, speak up and say so. Book a massage for the next day, because modeling is hard and you probably underestimate how hard it's going to be to do some of the poses and positions. Yeah, and then just for headshots, practice in front of a mirror. See if you like the way that you look. And then just work with the photographer who can take a little bit more time. If you're doing one of those 10-second, assembly line run throughs, you're probably not going to like your photo as much as someone who takes the time to talk with you.
It's great, man. Anything else that you wanted to touch on? I mean, this is we hit my gamut. Was there anything else that you had in your back pocket that you wanted to make sure we got on today?
No, those are pretty much all my tips. I just have my little sign off.
Oh, your plugs and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first off, before we go, talk to me about your podcast and what you guys are trying to do over there before we do anything else.
Yeah, so with my friend Stuart, we are running the Photo Op podcast. That is the Photo Opinion podcast. We talk about all things photo, video, and camera related. I'm kind of more of the artistic side. Stuart is more of the techie side. He's also a videographer, but he's kind of a jack of all trades, where he just does a ton of really cool stuff. And we just talk about news or new gear or tips. I just did a trip and we talked about landscape photography. So yeah, we just kind of whatever opinions that we're talking about, trying to entertain. And that one is centered 100% for photographers. So if you are photographer, videographer, work with a camera, then that podcast for you. For all of the couples who are just here for your awesome wedding tips, probably not as interesting.
It's still good. It's so good to hear, people that are knowledgeable about things. It's really, it's nice. I try to be knowledgeable about kind of everything on this podcast, but it is nice where having, photographer talking about all sorts of photography stuff. And if you're any interest in all that kind of stuff, it's just a wealth of knowledge over there. So
yeah.
And then please feel free anywhere else that you want people to check out about your wedding stuff. I know you do cosplay and advertising and product stuff and just all tons of different stuff. So where would you have people check out?
Yeah, so I do a million different things, but if you go to my website, nomcreative.com, that's November Oscar Mike, and then the word creative.com, that is basically kind of a hub. And then from that hub website, you can go check out my boudoir or my weddings or my headshots or whatever. Product photos are coming soon. It's something that I've done for a very long time, but my website until quite recently has been solely focused on portraits. So those will be added in the near future. But yeah, if you want to see any of my stuff, it's just Nom Creative on your social media platform of choice.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. This is great. I said, I want to do a podcast together. What are we going to talk about? And I thought this was great. I think just, once we kind of get back out of the craziness of everything, people are still going to be taking photos of lots of different stuff, and not everybody likes getting their photo taken. So, how to have excellent photos taken of you, I think is great. And I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's always fun talking with you, and I can't wait to be behind a camera with you again.
I know. We'll get there at some point. If you have a question for a future episode of the podcast, you can go to bestmadevideos.com/survey. And I have like a million different vendor categories and all sorts of different stuff. So if you have a question, get someone on and do that. And this has been another episode of Best Made Weddings. Thanks again.
Thanks.